I didn't really do a lot of videos on the steel framework, so thought I would take this opportunity to show you what we did here on the steel. Um, Underneath the door jamb, we used that 3M panel bonding adhesive to hold that chunk of steel under the door jamb, and then from there we ran some steel tabs off the chassis and bolted it to the steel that was bonded to the fiberglass of the body kit. So that's essentially what holds the body kit in the chassis together, are these steel tabs. So that steel is bonded on under the door jamb of the body, and then tabs are run off of that steel that's bonded to the body to the steel that runs along the chassis. Here's a rolling chassis. You can see these steel bars are what we're going to run off of the body kit, run our tabs off the body and attach to that steel. And that gives us our attachment and our stability of the body along the rockers. And then the body sits on this steel across here. The body will sit across the trunk and also across the dash area here. And this one doesn't have the steel bar across the front yet, but the body also sits on the front steel there. So it'll bolt down there. It sits here across the steel of the dash. Across there, there's a steel plate mounting the body to the chassis, and then in the trunk there's also a steel plate. This steel plate right here bolts through the body into the chassis, so that's your mounting point on the back of the car. You can see here we got a steel plate there bolted to the chassis, so there's your mounting point for that. These buttons are just temporary so we can operate the poppers. And that steel plate is your mounting point on the front. So you've got mounting point, you got mounting points all along the rockers, steel tabs up here next to the striker for the latch, your steel frame. There's a kind of shows you there what we're looking at. This steel that comes down and along the bottom of the chassis, you got steel tabs coming off attached to the steel that's bonded to the body. And you got your mounting point there and your mounting point there. So the body's on there permanently, and you can kind of see through the wheel here some steel bars that'll come off the rockers, and you got steel behind your rocker there that branches off to the chassis. So that steel there mounts to the chassis. You got bars like that all the way across, and then you've got your mounting tabs there that mount to the chassis. And then you've got a rectangular steel framework coming off of here that goes across the front of the car, and then that plate bolts down to that. Like I said, on this car we haven't put that piece on yet, but it would come off of those two steel planks and come across the front. There's the steel to mount your hinges on. As you can see, it's heavy duty steel that goes all the way across the car, and that way your hinges are supported by that. And again, the steel running along the bottom. A lot of people are concerned when you stretch a donor car if the stretch chassis is going to be as strong or as stable as the original car. Well, this is, if you see this steel here, that thickness of steel, which isn't thick at all, maybe an eighth of an inch thick, on the original donor Fiero ran all the way along here to the back of the car, and that's all that connected the back half of the car to the front, is that 1/8 inch thick steel. So this 2x4 steel plank we added, that's all structural stability that's not even there on a donor car. This steel was put in, that connects to the engine cradle. You can see this heavy duty steel here that's professionally welded, comes down and across. This steel bar goes all the way across the back. That's all added to the car when the donor is extended. This is the original donor car framework. This is the original donor car framework. This is our framework, much thicker, much more heavy duty than the donor car. So this chassis probably will add some more steel when we mount the body. I like to see the steel come from here down across the front, across the other side, and then also continue on down the back and connect on the back of the car as well. That's all the original Fiero steel framework, and we're going to add more to it. You'll notice on the V8 rolling chassis that we have, you'll notice the steel framework on that one, and we'll do the same thing on this one. That's a day's worth of work. No big deal. We'll, you can see the original steel, our steel, and we'll just basically butt up next to our steel all the way across and then across the back. Same thing on the front. That way there's no weak points whatsoever in this frame. Here's a look at the custom suspension. You can see the chromoly wide track control arms, urethane bushings, everything's brand new. Again, I get comments all the time about using the Fiero as a donor, but you can see here that there's really not much of the Fiero left. The reason we use it as a donor car is mainly for this stuff right here. Your heating, air conditioning, vents, some of the basic wiring, even the steering column we modify. We shorten it so it's correct to the proportions of the Lamborghini. This center tunnel stays, that's the original, but everything else is reinforced structurally. And most of the stuff, suspension wise and control arms, ball joints, anything like that, is replaced with new race quality parts. And this engine was a low mileage 3800 supercharged engine that we rebuilt, put a performance cam in it, put a performance pulley system. We've got a Pontiac G6 6-speed manual transmission, brand new, oversized intercoolers, oversized radiators, dual core radiators, custom programmed computer. We've got a new wire harness coming that's professionally built for this car. You can see this is kind of a mess here with the wiring, but that'll all be cleaned up when we get our new wire harness next week. So there you have it. Oh, also custom axles specifically to handle the horsepower of this car and to have the correct width for this Y-Track kit. So not much of the Fiero is left of this.